Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Radio Free Wall Street. 5 o'clock New York time every day. I get to talk to you and I pick a story, a favorite one. And the story today is one that is very important to us. We're coming up on the OPEC meeting. And before the meetings, they gather data, okay? They have the private information. And OPEC, to their horror, has seen that the oil market, despite their production cuts, is still oversupplied by 1.5 million barrels a day. You take into account U.S. production, which has been increasing, and you take into account Venezuela production decreasing, the cut in production by Russia and Saudi Arabia, and all of a sudden, oh my God, there's a crisis. High oil prices are cutting demand. Now, normally, oil at $70 and $80 a barrel wouldn't do that. In the past, it took $75 to see a little production cut, a demand cut. But until you got into 90 to 100, you didn't see the damage done. We're talking damage by millions of barrels a day of sales lost because of high prices. Now, we've been reporting quite a bit, as you know, about the Latin America debt crisis no one wants to talk about. We've been reporting about the riots on the streets in several Latin American countries over gasoline prices. That has spread to parts of Asia. The story that no one is telling you because OPEC doesn't want them to tell you, remember, everyone has to be very nice to OPEC because Saudis are spending lots of money for fees and research to help sell that oil company, Aramco, the oil company with no oil. Yeah, let me sign on to that Wall Street shit. They're going to. By the way, I can tell you that State Street, Blackstone, and the big pension funds are drooling over cramming that shit up retirees' asses. Boy, oh boy, oh, the fees are twice the going rate, I'm told, on that thing. Okay, and remember, our government that loves you, they've said it's okay that brokers do not have a fiduciary responsibility to people they're selling shit to. So just cram that shit up their asses and we'll get the hell out of here and just call me from the garbage pail when he got no money in retirement. It's a shame what's going on. It's really terrible. They're literally looting the retirement accounts of the baby boomers. Now, I got two stories before I get this OPEC story I want to, because I can't wait. I get so excited about shit. And I'll be covering this in market news and commentary and also in our daily trade update. Guess what happened? My, what a surprise. Remember how you had the Trump bump and the Trump bullshit? Well, I've been going on and on and on about all the crap that's going on with pissing off the G7, turning into a G6. Kiss a mass murderer's ass. Agree to stop our preparedness of our military in training for invasion, which they do every year, need to. And what again? Donald Trump said he's a good guy, he's honest. I went, this is your mind-melding woo! And within 30 seconds, Donald Trump can tell you, a good guy, he's a good guy. Really. So you went and found yourself the biggest mass murderer of times. Maybe Bashir Assad's having a contest with him. But as far as pure cruelty, savagery, just prison camps where they create those stick men, you know, those guys that walk around and you can see every bone in their body, you know, reminiscence of what the Nazis did during the horrors of World War II. Well, they got that going over there in Korea big time, North Korea. And all of a sudden, go, well, I don't know. He's a good guy. He wants to do good for. What shit? What an idiot. Well, anyway, I'll rant and rave by that a lot more as you get more and more confirmation of what I'm telling you. Right, worst deal ever made with any country ever. Okay, really sucks. Talk about. He needs to go to Michelle Obama and Mohammed Obama and apologize for giving him such a hard time about that Iranian deal. It had a lot more verification, by the way, and a hell of a lot more conditions. This is one of these Donald Trump slam a bam a ham a ham. Come on, look. Listen, whatever you want, just go to the camera and tell me how great I am. Oh, okay, Mr. Top. Well, we do something for you. Oh, you're a great man. That's it. That's the deal. So Donald Trump wants that Nobel Prize, and I hope he goes sinks with and chokes on it. The Nobel Plastic Explosive Peace Prize. Anyway, another key story I want to tell you about is I have been adamant that the Laffer curve is a piece of shit, ridiculous bullshit joke. Lie, crap. I can't believe anybody would believe that shit. It's not been true. It didn't work with Reagan. It didn't work for anybody. But anyway, you get the popular myth. I was talking to a friend of mine about my frustrations in life. He goes, well, if you tell a lie about 1 million times, everybody starts believing it. So Thank you. So I have to fight liars. Well, okay. I knew I'd have a job description. I wasn't quite sure that would be it, but I'll take the job. I'm good at my work. Anyway, we said that, there is no way that businesses after 0% interest rates for 10 years have got any need to invest anything anywhere in America. They have all the capital they need. Well, they can bring the capital home. It's already home. They borrow against an offsetting, compensating about 0.25%. No reason not to do anything any different. Well, the U.S. Budget Office just informed us that U.S. budget deficit widens 23% October through May. On what? On weak revenue growth. That's tax revenue. As in the tax break bonanza for billionaires and mega corporations. So it is now settled business. It's through the month of May. That's January, February, March, April, May. Why? Algo guy, the Algo guy says that's 5 months. Okay. Appreciate it, Algo guy. He does my math work for me. And so here we go. Now, the story today is, though, let's get back to basics. Oh, the other thing is the Time Warner deal. That Donald Trump decided it was a disaster for competition in America, even though it's a vertical deal. And Donald Trump decided that he didn't want it because he wanted fake news, CNN. Oh, you're from CNN, fake news. What? What? From the President of the United States. The next stop is the Secret Service will take the guy out and put a bull in the back of his head like they do in the other countries Donald Trump admires. Anyway, AT&T wins approval to buy Time Warner, and that is a major blow to Donald Trump. And remember, Kim Jong-un has committed to denuclearizing the entire Korean peninsula from north to south, east to west. Oh, my God. This is peace in our times, folks. Yeah, a guy with 6 nuclear weapons and a gulag gets to keep his gulag, by the way. He gets to oppress his people. There's no talk about reunification, no talk about the horrors that go on there, but he said that Donald Trump saved the world from annihilation from a man with 6 nukes. Now, of course, he doesn't talk about the other individual with 5,000 nukes whose asses he's kissing. You know what? Maybe Kim Jong-un's got a copy of the Trump video tape. All right, let me go on to my story of the day here. This is very important. And OPEC meeting's coming up. And OPEC's got a problem. Okay, let me tell you what it is. As we told you, U.S. production's come on like gangbusters. Lack of pipelines, lack of truckers, lack of this, lack of that. Don't believe any of that shit. Let me tell you about the oil business. Oil at $70 a barrel is like ridiculously profitable. To give you an example, if oil was considered as a mineral, considering the labor cost, the land cost, everything else, okay, taking it as a mineral, which is what it is, you should have, if it's compared prices to other minerals we get out of the ground, oil should be trading about $10 a barrel. Now, at some point in the future, we're going to get to that place as the fracking revolution just picks up steam and fracking, and because basically at one time the Earth was a methane ball. You know when you see those volcanoes and those flames shooting up? Well, that's methane gas. Mm-hmm. Yep, known as natural gas, God's gas. The whole Earth's full of it. Permeates up through the ocean. Do you realize that the vast majority of natural gas harvested in the world is either burned at the well or let into the air? Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a methane ball somewhere out there. Then basically what's happening is that natural gas, that methane gas, natural gas, methane gas, natural gas, got it? Well, it's just trapped in the layers of the Earth, and fracking alleviates that trapped gas and sets it free. Why don't you, honey, set me free? Oh, my God, free, I tell you, free. At last, free at last. So this is the blast. Free at last. Natural gas coming to the surface, okay? And by the way, bring some oil with it, too. So we're in a situation where OPEC's got a big-ass, hairy problem. They screwed up in an incredible way and kept the price far too long, ignoring the fact that in the past when they did this, the time from completion to market was a very long cycle. And through the 80s, I remember when they wiped out the oil industry in Houston, Texas. In fact, I was there buying up that shit pretty cheap. Yeah, I'll take that yacht there. I'll take that jet plane and give me one. You got 2? I'll take 2 of them. Anyway, that's when you have that cash and no one else does, and they got to have cash right now. Amazing deals you can make. That's how I buy. Now, I can imagine the time when, well, you want to hear me buying retail? I'll tell you a quick little story. I had bought out of England when the dollar collapsed. I'm sorry, when the pound collapsed and the dollar soared, I was buying container loads of furniture. It started out, I was going into these really beautiful mansions, and they were desperate for money. And as long as they could keep the airs that, we came there very quietly, didn't tell anybody what we were doing, loaded the container, got the hell out of there. Sometimes I even had it loaded at night. And the interesting thing is that they would leave the living room, dining room furniture, and upstairs would be empty, okay? So I was bringing the containers to ship to the United States, and had a buddy. I was selling him by the container. Let him make the money. I was tripling, quadrupling my money on the containers, and, what am I bid? They would auction the stuff off. Well, anyway, I started buying Rolls Royces. Did a couple Jags, but the XJ6 were just a lot of prom back then. But I was buying these old vintage Rolls Royces. And I really liked them, okay? And I was buying Silver Clouds and, just the older ones and the Shadows and, beautiful cars. And I learned them well. They're kind of like, it's a Rolls Royce. That's all I can tell you. It's built like a brick shithouse. So anyway, got these Rolls Royces, shipping them over here, getting them in on antiques and all that stuff. And I got a silver one, and I got, a brown one. I got a brown and white one, and, selling Rolls Royces. Had to deal with a guy in St. Louis, and he was doing them, and I was doing them, and they were just bringing them in here. So I decided, you know what? I'm tired of buying these old Rolls Royces. I've made enough money. I want a brand new one. So I ordered a gold, yeah, I know, an ostentatious gold Rolls Royce with a tan interior. And it was a beautiful Cornish car, beautiful car. And I just, I had the walnut interior and the custom this and that and the feet warm and all this bullshit, this car, right? I went hog wild. At the time, I think I was into that thing for like $150,000, right? And it was never, there was one of the few times in my life, I'm buying retail plus. So I've got this beautiful car in order. I can't wait for it to come. It doesn't come. And I keep calling him, well, where's my car? And the dealer in New York, and he goes, well, we got a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, the factory's on strike. I said, the Rolls-Royce factory's on strike. He said, we never had one in our history, but the Rolls-Royce factory's on strike. I said, so what does that mean? He goes, well, your car is one of the cars on the floor that's being handmade, and as soon as the strike's over, they'll finish your car and ship it. So he was like, I'm so sorry I bought this damn thing, right? So I'm waiting for my gold Rolls-Royce. Convertible, with the tan top and tan interior. I was going to go sport, and I thought it'd be really fun. Brand new. I'm buying these used Rolls Royces and making deals and picking them over there and, just doing what I normally do, buying distress. But I decided for some reason I'm going to buy retail. I never felt right about the deal, but I did it anyway because I just was making so much money. I just, expense it out, In fact, I remember I had to pay a huge gas guzzler tax on it. So anyway, the car finally arrives. They deliver in a panel truck, and they do a presentation. You got a logbook with your name and all that shit, and it's got lamb something or other skins on the floor so your feet don't get cold in the back, and it's just this brand new Rolls Royce. So I start to think, there's a funny smell, and I said, what is that smell? He goes, it's nothing. So he drives off in his truck. I got to get the car inspected. So you go to the state inspection station, the gas station. I go there, and guy goes, well, looky here. There's one of them goddamn Rolls Royce. Hell, I ain't ever seen one of them damn things. Holy shit, look at all this shit in there. So I said, okay, fine. He puts on left turn signal, right turn signal, brake lights. I said, listen, it's a brand new Rolls Royce. The car's perfect. Here's $100. Just give me the paper and get the hell in. No, I just got myself a Rolls Royce. I am inspected. So he says, turn the windshield wipers. So it's got a funny little thumb knob on a Rolls Royce if you know them in that era. And then nothing happens. So he goes, hello, I said turn on the windshield wipers, partner. So it's like they aren't coming on. I'm hitting the switch and I'm spinning it, all this shit. And I said, listen, here's $500. He goes, hell no, I got me a Rolls Royce and I flunked it. You got to come back after you get that thing fixed. So anyway, long story short, I get the thing fixed. I'm driving a car, pretty girl, on a date, going north on the thing. And all of a sudden, the right side of the car is all the way in the air and the left side's on the ground. It's got an automatic suspension leveling system. It's going to hell. Make a long story short, the car was a piece of shit. My brand new, buy retail, at retail price, don't care what you pay kind of shit I did. It was a guy was mad at me. It was the worst car I ever owned. Eventually, it caught on fire under the dash with smoke coming out. And Rolls-Royce, after I raised hell, they gave me a complete refund. And that's the last time I bought retail. So there you go. Unbelievable. So embarrassed. Guys laughing. It was like, yeah. Hell, what happened to that piece of shit now? Why don't you get yourself a Chevy, boy? So he's like, in fact, I had some good friends in the car, a doctor friend of mine, his wife, and the four of us are going somewhere, and they're like, don't say a word. He's really pissed. He's going to go crazy. So it's like, oh, shit, what a piece of shit. Anyway, it had a rattle in it. And, it was one of these cars that got sabotaged on the line. They were really pissed. It's a nasty strike anyway. So let's get back to OPEC. They buy retail, too. In fact, I've watched them buy yachts, okay, and smash them into reefs and shit. They got a big OPEC boat called Lady Mara. And unbelievable. Anyway, that's another story, another place, another time. It normally does the yacht thing around the Mediterranean in the summer. And so OPEC has got a big problem. They've got a situation that they have got to go to historic lows, okay, to get this price, to buffer it, and they got to get an output hike. And that means that they have got to suck up the production. And it's a big deal here, okay? Now, they're going to try to pretend like, well, I don't know if we can get all that production up there. You know that kind of bullshit they play? But the word is that, Russia's drooling at the chest because the Russian oil companies have been very unhappy about the cut. And all of a sudden, they're going to open the spigots. And what's happened is they are going to go ahead and bring up oil production to just going back, 5 years in the supply? And they've got to go ahead and keep producing oil. Now, what do you think is going to happen when they do that? Well, they are going to meet on June 22nd and June 23rd. Now, normally at an OPEC meeting, the idea is to talk the price of oil up. So the deal is this. They've got to pull this. Let me tell you how this Cajun magic goes. They have got to go ahead and up production. They have got to meet this problem because demand is falling, right? They got themselves a real problem. And that means that they are absolutely in a dilemma. And a lot of arguing going on about who's going to go ahead and take production higher, and how are they going to spin this, okay, and how are they going to handle this? So the answer is they don't know. Now, let me tell you something. In 2016, oil plunged below $30 a barrel, if you recall. Remember, we were riding a tall cart on that one, right? And now you're on the same, if you look at the same scale and using Brent, knocking on 80, right? So what's happening is they don't know what to do. And there's a big debate about how to handle this thing. And this is a situation where they got a very high political risk. Let me explain the political risk. They've got the Iranian situation, okay? That looms large. They've got the political risk of what's going on in Venezuela. But the other problem they've got is high oil prices is absolutely straining the system. In other words, they are finding that their clients are putting in less oil. Oil demand is falling. And it is absolutely a situation that's getting uglier by the minute. Now, the other wild card is OPEC is having a hard time understanding what is coming out of U.S. fracking. In other words, what exactly is going to be the fracking oil coming on barrels? So OPEC is very close to making a huge mistake on their demand and production estimates. Now, they want to spin like, well, there's not enough spare capacity. We don't know if we can really catch it up. That's all bullshit, okay? There is huge excess capacity out there. They don't want to admit it, right? Because they're very worried about the price falling. See, OPEC has got to walk this walk where They've got to try to get down to a $52 a barrel oil, maybe 48. Okay, that is where their numbers say that they can balance price without killing demand. This $80 shit didn't work, okay, and they're kind of surprised. Now, what OPEC doesn't understand, they never do, is that the world's heading for a recession. So that means that this recession there's no money. See, in a growing economy, there's extra money for people to pay more for a barrel of oil, which translates into gasoline, transportation fuel. As the economy tightens around the world, which it's doing, obviously, and you got the Italian crisis and that. Look, if your banks are in trouble, your economy's in trouble. If your country debt is in trouble, well, that's because it's reflective of what's going on in the country. So these slowdowns mean that the money's not out there. The jobs aren't out there. Commodity prices are getting hit pretty hard. And all of a sudden they're going, we can't afford to fuel at these prices. They're riding in the streets, demonstrating, and OPEC's hearing the howls of pain. And to them, they never expected this at $8 a barrel. So now the discussion is, well, where do we have to lower the price to bring back demand and not throw the world into a recession? Let me explain. High oil prices cause many of the recessions we've seen in the world. It's been the root of many evils. OPEC understands that. And what they want to try to do is kind of like any good leech, any bloodsucker. You want to suck as much blood as you can, but you don't want to kill your host. Now, as you know, if you get enough leeches on the body, enough bloodsuckers, well, the people eventually die from too much blood being sucked, and that's just the vampire curse. So OPEC's got a problem is that where is that number? Now, what keeps them really awake at night is you got the fracking. Now, they want to placate themselves. Well, the fracking will take years. The pipelines aren't there. The wells aren't going to go into production. And all of a sudden they're going, well, no, the wells are going into production. The U.S. is finding a way around the bottlenecks and getting that oil out there. And now the horror of all horror is that, holy shit, the Chinese have got to buy U.S. oil. Let me tell you about the Chinese master plan. They got Trump making all kinds of noises, and they got to keep him, off their ass. What exactly do they do? Well, here's their solution. They're going to go ahead and buy the shit out of U.S. oil, get it through the Panama Canal, get it through the West Coast as much as they can. The Panama Canal is the main route. And what they're going to do is get that oil, and then they're going to put it back on the market, either as product or as oil. And so that means that they are buying oil that would not come to market. In other words, all of a sudden production guys are going, well, we got a $10 differential. We got somebody that's going to put up with the smaller ships, the lighter ships, more expensive cost getting it there. And what they don't understand is that is China. And China policy is, shit, let's just go ahead, produce the shit out of oil, suck it out of the U.S. market, call that an import, relieve our balance of trade deficit, and dump that oil on the market, even if we've got to lower the price and dump it at a loss. You understand? It's a small price to pay to get the heat off on this whole balance of trade deficit shit. So this is another strategy that OPEC had not counted on. All OPEC is seeing that Asian demand's falling. They're seeing Latin America. They're hearing, from traders that, they're getting price resistance and demand is falling for oil products, especially gasoline. So we're in a situation which is another trap. Let me tell you, markets are complicated boogers. And I've been involved in enterprises that sought to manipulate oil. I've seen other commodities attempted to be manipulated. And it just doesn't work. I mean, it's just something about the curse of a manipulator. Eventually, your own blood butters that are in the manipulation with you, well, they eventually sell you out and do side deals, and they bust up the cartel by selling under market. And we are headed into that place. Now, remember, U.S. oil companies, the big majors, in spite of the bullshit, very much want to cooperate with OPEC. Now, if they were to join the OPEC cartel, they'd end up in jail. So there's other ways they do it and other ways they do it, and you know what I'm trying to say, because there are other ways of doing it. But the deal is this. The situation you've got is that we are now moving into peak demand, gasoline, and that ends. In other words, you're into July. By the time August rolls around, you've produced everything you want to produce. So now we're coming into, from oil standpoint, remember, oil is a forward-looking commodity. When you look at oil, you want to look at not today's price, not today's consumption figures, but you want to look about, I try to keep a view 6 months in the future. When you look at 6 months in the future, that takes you what? July, August, September, October, November, December? Well, at that point, you're going to hit the critical mass where excess supplies, lower demand, because remember, you're hitting that lower demand that's going to come in November, October, November. Heating oil season kicks in, but it's not enough to save you. So the problem in the oil business, it's always the problem of, I got to buy the crude now, but I'm getting paid for the product later. Because from the time you contract for the crude oil, set your refiner, build the product, deliver the oil to the refinery, deliver the product out to your customer, you've got many months delay. So already refineries are kind of ending, they haven't ended, but they're kind of ending their summer gasoline run. In other words, you're not restarting your refinery now. In other words, you're at the tail end of the thing. Now remember, when a refinery operates, it's the last 10% of production where your profit lies. It's a really weird business. Okay, I mean, I learned a lot of it from Tesoro. I used to buy from them huge amounts of kerosene, diesel fuel rather, and huge amounts. And I was a pretty good trader with them, so I got to know the traders because we were always acing them, and they didn't like us; they were losing money. Yeah, I think. Well, can I buy a 6 month of production now? Well, you're stupid. Okay. How did you know the price is going to go higher and you got it? So anyway, they made friends only as friends in need or friends indeed kind of thing. So anyway, we used to outtrade them. And the problem was, so they wanted me to get involved with looking at some of their numbers. Of course, they didn't want to pay the price I wanted, so we didn't get as involved as they wanted to, but that's another story. Anyway, you get what you pay for. So anyway, the problem is that they've got this lag time. And then let me tell you the other problem. A lot of the stuff they produce in the refinery run doesn't necessarily have a place to go. How do you like that? I have a friend of mine who for years has made his living buying from refiners the stuff they got no customers for. So it might be a situation where they've got no demand for naphtha, okay? This is the small, high distillates, okay? And he's got no tanks. He's got no customers to go. He's got to find some place to go, right? Now, this guy maintains his own connections with buyers of the various products. He has contract with ships to move it. And he's in that, what he calls the extra molecule business. That is the really weird stuff, like butane, for example, that there's a hard place to go with it. And a lot of times he can get that from a refiner at nothing. In fact, occasionally they'll pay him because they got nowhere to go with this shit. What are you going to do with it? You're not going to dump it in the river anymore. Those good old days are gone. They used to do that, by the way. So you have to find somebody to take it off of you, right? And that means they got to have the pipeline space, or they've got to have vessels that can put it at your dock to offload it. So it's a really weird business, is what I'm trying to say. It's not like you think, and downstream is a whole different world in the refining business. So the problem you've got now is, you remember we talked about the gasoline? Well, they still have more gasoline than they want to admit they've got out there, and they're coming into peak. But if you project the peak, here's the problem. AAA says, U.S. gasoline, people can drive 1 billion miles more. You heard all this bullshit announcements. You get it you have it before the Memorial Day. You have it before the Labor Day. You got it before the 4th of July. They're going to get on there telling you Americans are driving more than ever before, right? You hear it. What they aren't telling you is they ain't driving more than ever before in Mexico, that's for sure, or Brazil, or Latin America, or Rotterdam barrels are not there. Remember, you're looking at a $5 a gallon price in Europe, sometimes $6. So these increases become huge as they multiply down the line, okay? And the problem is that their demand is softening. And there people are also switching, okay? You've got a big move to natural gas, okay? You've got a big deal. Now, remember, a lot of these oil companies hate natural gas. You have seen the oil price go up and up and up and up and away, right? Well, the reality is that natural gas is not followed because it is in such huge oversupply. Now, the last thing an oil company wants to have happen here is for somebody to get smart and get serious about making natural gas a transportation fuel, which is really what we should have been done for 20 years. So it's now a gasoline-based economy, one that runs in trouble, an oil price that cannot be sustained, demand that's waning, and OPEC that's got members that want to produce as much as they can. Now, OPEC is secretly hoping, well, let's have it blow up in Venezuela. Hey, Donald, can you go ahead, please, and shut down Iranian crude production? Give us an edge. Now, there are a whole bunch of people moving on these things. Let me explain that. There's another business out there, and that is the black market oil. Okay, it's a huge market, and you'd be surprised because oil doesn't have a passport. And no one really tracks oil flows that well, though they try to. So there's a situation where what's called the teapots are kind of a shadowy operation out of China that gets these off barrels and produces product. That product may end up in Vietnam. It may end up in India. It's a low-grade shit product. Sometimes, when you're buying diesel fuel mixed with kerosene, that's a whole other story for another place, another time, how that trick works. Kerosene's cheaper. And all of a sudden, you've got a whole market out there that's going, yeah, let's stop. Let's put the sanctions up. Donald, please do it. Now, Donald's got a problem. Donald's hearing the howls, and it's kind of kept quiet, that these higher oil prices is now sparking temporary oil inflation. Donald's got a problem that transportation businesses are trying to get the president's ear and go, look, we got a problem with this shit. So all of a sudden, even a wealthy country that's got a lot of room in its economy to absorb higher oil prices isn't absorbing so much. So oil has got a dilemma, and OPEC's got a dilemma. They have got to increase production, and they've got to lower the price without crashing the price. And that's a very dicey thing because there's a lot of pieces that are not in their control. Okay, now, in the past, they could count for being able to squeeze mostly America. America had the highest cost of producing oil for many years. So they counted on, that was the oil wipeout you saw when oil went down to $10 a couple of times. Remember all that swing, up and down, up and down? Well, that wiped out the oil industry because OPEC knows it's heavily financed, heavily margined, and the most expensive in the world. Regulations eat their lunch, as an example. Well, guess what? That ain't the deal no more. Okay, now it's a whole different world. Now you got a situation where, frackers have got their economics work. Frackers can compete on the world cost production. They don't go out of business at $60 a barrel. They don't go out at $50. They don't go out at $40. So there's a whole other dynamic here. So it's a real dicey situation. Okay, it's very political. And, there's a lot of pieces moving in the background and a lot of ways to play this game. But my read is, and, you never know about this kind of thing, by the way, just I'm warning you, but my read is that they might have a big problem with not an oil supply shortage, but a glut. Although they're saying the barrels are down from a historic level, or a peak level, year over year, they are, but not on a 5-year trend. Now, remember, you also got that oil that is snuck around in the offshore floating capacity. That's hard to get a handle on. You also have a situation, if you're delivering what's called now barrels, nobody wants to pay the price. So already they are starting to have to sell under the published price and make deals. It's a whole rebate situation. So we're now in an ugly situation. OPEC is in trouble. By the way, they've withdrawn the oil company that you can buy in your very own retirement funds without getting any oil, and the king controls your supply. And of the 11 seats, goddamn foreigners only have 3. So these guys know how to play the game really ugly, and Wall Street's showing them how, by the way. I just want you to know that. So they have recommended, because they can't place this deal, and I haven't seen that very often. On the QT, they've done a couple road shows, and they can't put the deal together, okay? The terms are so ridiculous. So they've upped the ante, they've upped the commission, and they still can't put the deal together. Now you're coming to the really sweet spot is that you are now, you're right at the sweet spot right now, the peak demand, okay? We're in June. Okay, once you get to July, whatever you've done now already filters through September. See, remember, your July barrel and your June barrel is your September-October production. And that's when your demand goes down. So you've got to be thinking in terms of that. Remember, it's a thinking man's game, anticipating that 6 months in the future. And all of a sudden, that isn't looking so happy. And there's a whole lot of questions about how this ends up. And we could have a situation that, You got a buyer's revolt here. You know, they just are not paying a higher price. OPEC is becoming very sensitive to that, and they're going to say, well, we don't have the spare production, and and all that bullshit. Let me tell you something. This is part of the problem that they have with the Aramco deal. Real OPEC production figures are always a lie. Everyone knows that. But especially when you come to Russia and Saudi Arabia, you don't know what their proven reserves are. You don't really know what their production is. These are state-guarded secrets. And part of the problem with the Aramco deal is that the investors are demanding, well, okay, exactly how much oil do you have? What are you really producing? And they don't want to let go of that. One of the ways of trying to solve that problem is to go ahead and go into production agreements. Rather than get involved in the crude oil delivery, go ahead and refine it to products. And there's a big push by right now for partners to put up these huge refineries. I mean, huge. Now, let me tell you how that trick works. OPEC is basically an oil barrel monopoly, collusion, and they're just trying to control prices. Where they get a way of hiding a lot of that is that once that stuff gets refined, it's really hard to keep track of. So if all that oil comes out as oil in barrels with a quota system, once it gets refined into something, it's out of that quota. You understand the trick? So now the move is on all the oil majors is to get into the refining business. Now here's the problem with the refining business. The refining business is the integration that was the secret to what the Rockefellers did. Okay, but oil companies, these big majors, well, one of the reasons why they can get a $100 a barrel oil well, make money on it is they're not making money on the oil. See, they can move the profit center around. So you're losing money on the oil. That's per barrel production. You take a loss there. But then what you're doing is you're moving into an offshore refinery somewhere, going directly into a foreign market. That kind of falls off the books. And now where you're making the money is you're losing money on the oil, but you're making up the refined products. So that's another trick. I love this business. It is such a whore business. It's such a liar-thieving game. And the deal is that you got a bunch of liars sitting around OPEC table, all lying about production numbers. They pay off the inspectors to verify. I mean, it's an unbelievably sleazy system. And then you've got the experts that are advising OPEC, and I've known some of them. And the job is to lie. If you don't tell the sheik what he wants to hear, you don't get the contract, okay? And maybe you get to go to a 5-star hotel or worse. I know one case guy that wasn't doing the reports right, and they arrested him for homosexuality, I believe. And he never was the same after he finally got his ass out of there, but he's out of the business and out of advising our OPEC brothers anyway. They play a different game. So there you have it. The oil is a nasty business, by the way. And if the truth be known, we've been paying too much for oil and gasoline all our lives. That's going to change. There's something about the way the world works that, what goes around comes around. Well, we got the come around part now. And I'm telling you that the OPEC meeting is a big problem. And normally they like to have things tied up in a little bow before these meetings. And right now it's not happening. Now we'll see what's happening in the future. By the way, Trump got burnt. His own Justice Department approved the Time Warner deal, AT&T, CNN. Oh, Fox, are you watching? So anyway, that's going to be fun. We'll be dealing with that with tomorrow's news. Anyway, I love oil. I love what I see is happening. Oh, my God, I think we're getting ready to have a whole lot of fun. So I'll see you later. Bye.